Changes are what you see. I've tried to win this war, I confess. My hands are weary, I need your rest.
Actually, the more you talk through that, the easier it is.
Check, check. Ready?
Heaven thundered, and the world was born. Life begins and ends in the dust you formed. Faith commanded, and the mountains moved. Fear is losing ground to our hope in you. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Freedom conquered, all our chains undone. Sin defeated, Jesus has overcome. Mercy triumphed when the third day dawned. Darkness was denied when the stone was gone. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done.
Amen. Good morning. Please be seated. Welcome to the Benton Church. We are so glad that you joined us this morning. We want to make sure that you're comfortable in your time with us, so make sure you check out the kitchen window over here. We have awesome volunteers that have goodies and beverages prepared for us, so feel free to check that out at any time. And we also have a nursery available for children 3 years and younger. Those will be out these main doors and to your right at the end of the hallway. And we are also excited to announce that we have a new pre-K children's church, and that's for ages 3 to 5 years old. So what will happen is they will follow their teachers out through these doors during the offertory later on in the service. So we are very excited about that. We also want to make sure that you're aware that next Sunday is Palm Sunday. We are almost here, believe it or not. And always a fun Sunday. The kids will march in waving palm branches. Really fun time. So make sure you mark that on your calendars. We also have a Maundy Thursday service later that week on Thursday. That information is in your bulletin. And then last but not least, of course, on April 1st is Easter Sunday. We will have a sunrise service at 7:30 that morning out here kind of behind me at the tomb. And following that, we will have breakfast, which is always a great time of fellowship. And then at 10 o'clock, we will have our combined service. So make sure you show up an hour earlier that Sunday at 10 o'clock. But really encourage you to check out sunrise service or breakfast. Always a lot of fun. And also, just a heads up, we are in need of some greeters for second service. The welcome team are looking for welcoming individuals to do that. Basically, how that works is you would show up a little bit earlier. You'd show up at about 10:40 a.m. and just greet people as they come in. If you would like more information about that or you're interested in that, there is a clip back at the Happenings booth. And the Happenings booth is always a great place to check out before you leave for any of those clipboards or other things that we don't have time to get to during announcements. But at this time, I invite you to stand and greet one another, practice those greeting skills, and then head back to the clipboard and sign up. We will get started singing very shortly. Thanks for being here.
I'm not seeing it up here. Oh, it's right here. Check. Yeah, let's do it.
The heavens are your temple.
Amen. Please be seated.
Well, good morning. As you guys might notice, my name is not Justin, and I'm not the pastor here. My name is Alex, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm just a Sunday school teacher. But when it is spring break, so Justin and Cara have taken the boys on a cruise, the Western Caribbean, and given their proximity to Benton this morning, we felt it was probably a good idea for him not to be responsible for delivering the message. So this is what we get. My understanding is that this time we normally do prayer requests. So if anybody has a praise or something they would like to be lifted up, raise your hand. We'll find you with the mic. Tell us your name and what we can pray about.
A long time ago, I shared that my neighbor had broken her foot, and they thought they were going to amputate it, and it's been a year, and then she's been fighting this, and they finally removed 9 bones and went to a specialist in Texas and shot the foot full of something, antibiotics or something, and wrapped it up, and so far she's in a wheelchair, but bless her heart, she's in a trailer home, and it's very difficult for her to navigate. So I think just encouragement through the day be something great to pray for. Andy is her name.
Andy, all right.
We have a neighbor up in Chase County that just passed away, and she was 36 years old, and they have 7 children. The youngest one is 2, and the oldest one is 11. And her name's Haley Swift Peters, and we just need to lift that Haley Phipps Peters. We need to lift that family up in prayer for her husband and her parents, and just those 7 kids, that God would intervene in that, and just it's one of those things we don't understand, but God's will is perfect. So the Peters family needs our prayers.
I guess most of you probably won't know, but Nancy Kleitz, she used to be a hairdresser in El Dorado, passed away of lung cancer yesterday morning, I believe. Her sons, Cody and Casey, went to Circle, but it was somewhat unexpected. She was trying to get on a trial, wasn't able to, went on hospice, and within a couple of days. So prayers for their family. And then also our old neighbors across the street from our house when we lived in Towanda, their house burnt down Friday among all those fires. The Kravitz was their last name. So I guess be in prayer for them as well.
Anything else? Not seeing any, we'll go to have a time of prayer. We're going to lift these up. We're going to have a time of silence, an opportunity for you to lift up the things that are on your heart that you may not have wanted to share publicly, but are still weighing on you this morning. And we'll finish out with a little time of prayer before our offering. If you'd bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for all the blessings that you've given to us. We are such a blessed people that does not exempt us from concerns or problems in our lives. So this time we lift those up to you. We want to pray for Andy's continued healing, Lord. It's a long, drawn-out struggle. But we have faith that you are the solution to that. We want to lift up the Peters family and those kids and the people that are surviving that tragedy, Lord. Give them peace. We lift up the Kleitz family. very unexpected, it sounds like. We hope that you would bring some peace to that family as well. Let them know that you love them. Wrap them up in your arms. And then finally, we lift up the Kravitz house. Problems and just the uncertainty of what that brings when a house burns down. Lord, give them peace as well. For none of these are small problems, but we know that you're the ultimate answer to each of them. At this time, each of us has things on our hearts. We ask that you would open our hearts up to you and lift those up. Jesus, in this time, we know that while we face a lot of trials, we also have a lot of blessings to be thankful for. And with the weather in the last week, we thank you for the firefighters and the National Guard personnel that have been responding and helping the farmers and the ranchers out in western Kansas and even here in Butler County. But we need the rain, so we ask that you would bring it. There's a chance today, and we ask that that would be a positive impact on the land. We ask for healing of our bodies and protection of our military personnel throughout the world, and that you would give wisdom to our leaders, both locally and throughout the world. You are an amazing God. You've blessed us with so much. And again, we never forget to thank you for that. Amen. This time we're going to take an offering.
Children are dismissed for children's church.
And children go to children's church. So, I normally go to first service, but do you guys realize how lucky we are for the musical talents that are in this church? Give Jan and the band a big round of applause for that. Thank you. So, raise your hand if you've been watching a little bit of basketball in the last week, all right? So, a lot of us have a lot of big things to be thankful for and maybe some things to hope for next year. As a K-State fan, I can tell you the importance of the bench. And so while Justin is on his cruise today, I hope that maybe the bench will come through in today's message. Again, I'm a Sunday school teacher, and what Sunday school teachers do is we tell stories, and we try to find a way to tell the story in an entertaining way and then apply it to the kids' lives. And since that's about the extent of my talent, that's what I'm going to do today. Our story today is found in 1 Samuel 17, and it's one that you all will know. You've heard it 100 times. What I hope is that today you get something new out of it. You gain some sort of new understanding or a renewed sense of understanding from this, and then apply it to your life here in the next week. The fact is that as David faced Goliath, we also each face giants in our own lives. We face financial giants. We face health giants. Giants within our relationships. So while we're going through the story today, I want you to think about the giants in your own life and learn and handle those situations ourselves. Now, 1 Samuel 17 is kind of a lengthy chapter. If I were to go and read the whole thing, it may take a little bit of time. So what we're going to do today, instead of reading it straight out of the Bible, feel free to pull it up and criticize me, not publicly, but later on if I miss something. But I'm going to kind of paraphrase and go through the story, and then we're going to draw some conclusions afterward and follow this up, all right? So for the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to set the scene. It's important to realize that all the stories in the Bible actually happen. They are true things. This is not something that happened in a land far, far away. Well, it was far, far away, but it's not a fairy tale, okay? This is not Narnia that this happened in, all right? This is a real-life place. This is Israel. And I've marked on here the Valley of Elah. Zoom in a little bit. The Valley of Elah is the setting for today's story. There's Jerusalem, as you can see it circled there. And we're going to be about 25 miles to the west of Jerusalem. It takes place in this valley between the two mountaintops. And you can see on this topographical map here, you've got hills to the north of the valley and to the south. It kind of makes a bend there. Put the satellite image on there. This is a real, actual place. It really actually happened. Again, it's not Middle Earth. So a lot of the time we think about these stories like it's a fairy tale. It's absolutely not. Here's a picture of where this happened. Now, scholars, what we're doing here is we're looking at the mountaintop. Think about that satellite image. We are on the western slope looking to the east, okay? So that hill directly in the center of the screen is likely where the Israelite camp was set up. And we are actually standing here from the vantage point of the Philistines as they are opposing the Israelites, and they have the valley between them. It says that it was a dry riverbed at that time, although in this picture it sure does look green and lush. All right, so y'all have that in your mind, what we're talking about here? Now let's introduce some of the characters. Goliath, whose name is synonymous with giants and huge problems, right? He was not just a big, tall guy, all right? We all know some big, tall people. Giants, and Goliath in particular, are a whole lot bigger than that. I had considered having Dan Claycamp stand up here and show us what that would mean, but 1 Samuel tells us that Goliath was 6 cubits and 1 span tall. That's about, it varies on what I could find on the internet, but somewhere between 9.5 and 10 feet tall, most likely. So he was not just head and shoulders above everybody else. He was head, shoulders, and chest above everybody else. And he's not like one of these tall, lanky guys. He's solidly built, he's strong, he's muscular, he is proficient in warfare, he's experienced in warfare, and he is a deadly killing machine. In modern day, think about a soldier who's decked out in all of the most advanced, most expensive, the latest military equipment. He's got the Kevlar vest and all the different weapons strapped to him. He's got the helmet, everything that could make him as intimidating and effective as possible, Goliath has. And because he's so much bigger, it's all scaled up. Instead of carrying an M16, he's got a Barrett 50 cal. He's a big, intimidating guy. Now, our other character here is David. David's a stark contrast. David is a young teenage boy, likely 14 or 15 years old. Some of you have kids that age, so think of your own child in this situation. He's a farm kid. He's a shepherd, all right? He's the youngest. He has lots of brothers that are all older than him that are off in the military. But David's at home taking care of the flocks of sheep. He's a shepherd. Now, he's not a unhealthy kid. He's young, but he's still strong for his age. He's handsome, he's good looking, he's a capable kid, but he's not imposing because of his age. Now, as we go through the story, I'm going to leave the pictures up there so you guys can visualize this a little easier. So the story starts out. David was sent by his father from where they lived in Bethlehem, which is the northern part of the country, down to the valley of Elah to check on the battle. And there's two reasons that his father sent him. First was to bring food to his brothers and to their commanding officers. It's always a good idea to keep the CO happy. The other reason that he went was to bring back news of how the battle was going. Keep in mind, this is before foreign war correspondence and Twitter. So it was a little hard to know exactly what was going on when you're that far away. So these were the two reasons that David was sent down there. And what he found was not something that he would be happy to report to his dad. You see, what was going on was you had the Philistine camp set up on one side of the valley, up on a mountaintop, and you had the Israelite camp set up on the opposing mountaintop, and the big valley between them. And every morning, both armies would draw their battle lines, they'd go out there, they'd line up, and they'd look at each other. Pretty common for that time. But what was different was this giant man who stood head, shoulders, and torso above everybody else would come forward from the Philistine side of the valley. And he would make a challenge. His challenge was this: any man from the Israelite camp who would come forward and face him in personal hand-to-hand battle would, in turn, save everybody else from having to go to battle. And it was a winner-take-all situation. So if the Philistines, who would win in this one-on-one combat, which all likelihood, look at our characters, they would, then the Israelites would become slaves. Their entire nation would become slaves to the Philistines. In the slim chance that the Israelite would defeat Goliath, though, the Philistines would become servants of Israel. So there's a lot riding on this. And if you're an Israelite, if you put yourself in their position, it's really easy to be intimidated by this circumstance. Go out, fight this huge guy who's so good at battle and war, and it's not just your life that's hanging in the balance, but it's the life of your entire country. It's a lot of pressure. It's so much pressure that when they're lined up to start in the morning, when Goliath comes forward, all the Israelite soldiers turn and run away at the sound of Goliath's voice. Grown men turn around and run away. It's frightening. This is the situation that David finds himself when he arrives in the valley of Elah. So he goes, but David's response is different from everybody else's. Remember, everybody sees the worldly appearance and how intimidating Goliath is, and they run away. David's question is absolutely amazing. He says, who is this guy who challenges the forces of God? See, he understands that Israel is God's chosen people and that God will protect them. He doesn't ask, who's this great warrior? Who's this monster that wants to make us all slaves? He says, who is this dude challenging the power of the living God? It's a pretty unique perspective. It's so unique, in fact, that word gets around camp pretty quick. Hey, there's a teenager in here who doesn't seem to be afraid of Goliath. So King Saul summons David into his presence. I should also interject here that when David is out there talking to the soldiers and figuring out what's going on, he asks, the information is freely given. It's widely known. Since nobody wants to go out and fight Goliath, King Saul has made an offer to try to entice somebody to go take care of this problem. And the offer is this. It's a good offer, too. The risk is high, but the reward is great. The offer is, if you defeat Goliath, you will have three things given to you. One, a lot of money. A big monetary reward for defeating Goliath. The second thing, you can marry the king's daughter. The third thing, which I find the most attractive, and maybe somebody others too, a lifetime tax exemption in the state of Israel. Three things that you'll win for killing Goliath. And yet, for 40 days, as Goliath has come out and made this challenge in the morning and at night, twice a day for 40 days, nobody has taken up the challenge. Nobody has even tried. So when David comes to see King Saul, his statement is just amazing. If I may paraphrase, he says, "Don't stress out over this Philistine. I'll go fight him." In which Saul responds, "Are you kidding me? You're a teenager. You're just a kid. You're not a soldier. You haven't been trained in battle." But David says, "Well, hold on. I may be young, but I've got experience." Right? It's a job interview here. I've got experience. Look, when I'm a shepherd and all my brothers are off fighting the battle and I'm at home, I'm tasked with protecting all the sheep, these wild animals come, in particular bears and lions. And I've gone after them. I've saved the sheep from the wild animals. And you know what? I've killed a lion with my bare hands. I could take on this too with God's help. Well, they hadn't had a better option come along. Nobody else had volunteered yet. So King Saul says, I'm gonna let you do this, David. But to let you do this, I'm going to try to leverage and make sure you have every opportunity for success possible, because the fate of our entire country rides on this. So what's he do? He dresses David in all of Israelites' best military garb, right? He gets the chainmail, he gets the helmet, he gets the sword. In the picture, and remember, he's just a kid, he's not full grown. So if you've seen the Lord of the Rings, try picturing a hobbit dressed in the garb of an elf, right? The sleeves are too long. The sword's so heavy he can't pick it up. This is not a really good situation here. So David wisely says, you know what? I can't fight like this. This isn't going to work. But God's already given me some simple tools. I'll just use what I'm used to. So he goes to face the warrior with a piece of leather, a rope, and 3 little rocks made into a little sling. And that's what he goes to face Goliath with. So, now the scene is set. Goliath comes forward. He makes his daily challenge. Everything is going like it has for the last 40 days. Nothing's really changed, except today, instead of everybody running away, one kid, steps forward. Goliath is insulted. Are you kidding me? There's an entire army of grown men here that I've been challenging for 40 days. And the guy that steps forward is a teenager? He actually makes a statement to the effect of, am I some kind of dog that you're going to come after me with a stick? David's response, again, is quite impressive. He says, you fight me with a sword and a spear, but I will fight you in the name of the Lord Almighty. Today the Lord has given me victory. Today the whole world will know that God, the God of Israel, is alive. And it is not by the sword that he saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you all into our hands. All right, so that's enough for Goliath. This is where the movie scene starts, okay? It's an action film. Goliath draws his sword, and he steps toward David. David charges towards Goliath. He reaches into his pouch, and he pulls out a smooth stone. He loads it into his sling, and he winds up for his shot. They're both running towards each other, and it's in a slow motion release. The rock goes on its way. In the movie, too, I'm sure that this is one of those situations where even though it takes just a couple of seconds for the rock to travel, it's going to take 5 minutes. We're going to see it from every possible angle as it's flying through the air. And as that rock comes towards Goliath's head, the look of anger and hatred and determination suddenly goes lights out. The giant falls to the ground on his face. Dust curls up around the body, and there is a unequaled moment of silence as both mountaintops can't believe what they've seen. This is like a last-second three-point half-court buzzer beater shot times 100. And then all of a sudden, it's not quiet anymore. The Israelites cheer. They can't believe they've won. Defeat sets in on the Philistines. They turn around and run in fear because their champion is dead. And David advances towards the still body laying on the ground, draws the giant's sword, and ends the problem once and for all. And so, victory was given to him. You see, David faced a problem. And the most interesting thing that I find in here is it wasn't even his problem to begin with. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't in the military. It wasn't his duty nor his responsibility to fight the Philistines. But he had the faith to do it because he knew that God had already won the battle. We all face giants of our own. They may not be 10 feet tall. They may be taller. Whether it be financial giants, giants within our health, our bodies are failing, we have relationship problems, whether it be at home with our spouse or our kids or at work. Might have anger issues, we may even face addiction. Giants come in all types of forms. Can overcome them not with the tools of the world, but with the simple tools given to us by God. By putting on the full armor of God found in Ephesians 6, we carry with us the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the gospel of peace, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, the sword of the Spirit, and of course, prayer. These are the simple tools, like a sling and 3 stones, that we can carry with us to fight our giants. If you've ever been to Sunday school class with me or a Bible study or talked to me for very long about any sort of these deep subjects, you'll find that I always revert to this verse. It is absolutely my favorite verse. Ephesians 4, 6, and 7, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Commit that to memory. It's a powerful verse. When you feel like you can't do something, when the obstacles are too big, when the odds are too far against you, it feels like you're on a downward spiral. But realize it's not that you can't, it's that God will. And come to the further understanding, it's not that God will, but that God already has. God's already won the battle. If you're facing money problems, God will provide. Have the faith to know that God will provide, and check out Matthew 6. If you're having health issues, whether it be you or it's one of your loved ones, know that even if this body does not heal, we will all receive new bodies one day. Relationship giants. I'm not Dr. Phil. I'm not going to try to teach you how to save it, but God can. In 2 weeks, it's Easter. God's already won the war. Trust Him to win your battles. Put on the full armor of God and have a little bit of faith. That's all it takes. I want you to feel encouraged that even in the face of overwhelming giants, God has given you the tools to overcome. And know that He will never leave you. Even when we may walk away from Him, He's still there. Know that God has the power to make a shepherd boy into a victorious hero and ultimately into a king. And even though that Jesus has, and know that Jesus, again, has already won the battle, David was just a little kid. But with a little bit of faith, he became a national hero. As you guys know, he went on to become king himself. But while Goliath was a physical giant that David faced, he wasn't the last giant David faced. David faced a lifetime of obstacles, some of which were of his own making. So will we. Every giant that comes along may challenge your faith. It may test your ability to trust God. But know that God has never left. He's right where he always has been. And we thank him for that. So that we can go and carry on and fight our battles, one movie after another. Dear Father, we thank you for all of your blessings. We thank you for your stories and know that they are true. Thank you for your ability to help us fight our giants and win our battles. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
I invite you to stand as we close with Always. If you're not familiar with the song, just encourage you to let these words minister to you this morning. And once again, the altar is always open. So if you have giants you're facing in your life, or maybe know someone who is facing their own giants and would like to come forward and pray, we encourage you to do that at any time.
My help is on the way. Oh my God, He will not delay. My refuge and strength, always. I will not fear. His promise is true. My God will come through. Always.
May you go boldly with faith to face your giants this week. I pray that you overcome them, not just face them, but overcome your giants. Go in peace.